All right, so I've shared this story in the past, but I'm gonna share it again here in a little bit more detail, and that is how I was able to take 1,000 subscribers and turn that into $12,500 without YouTube ads. That's the important piece here. Because a lot of people think, well, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel, I'm gonna turn on YouTube ads, and I'm gonna go ahead and make $1,000, $12,000, whatever it is, right? That's the dream. I don't look at it that way, and I never looked at it that way, still don't look at it that way. To me, any ad money that you're generating is generally going to be bonus, icing on the cake. All right, so I'm gonna take you back 15 years ago. Yes, 15 years ago, I was on YouTube, and I actually started a YouTube channel basically doing this right here. If we go back to the basics on how it used to be this. There was no fancy edits, there was no high production. It was this, it was being real. And I sat down, I shared the story about how my wife and I were able to start a photography business from scratch without going to college for photography, without any formal training, and how we started that business. And I said, I'm gonna go ahead and start a YouTube channel. I'm just gonna document what I've done or share what I've done. And then I'm going to share, some tips along the way and see what happens. I have no idea what's gonna happen. And so I did that and started to build a little bit of an audience. And we were getting some subscribers, and at the time I started to learn a little bit about email marketing, and I was like, I'm gonna start building a little email list. All right, I was listening to some guys online that were building email lists. I'm like, all right. So I used Aweber at the time, which Aweber is still around. I don't use them anymore, but that's who I used. And I was collecting emails. So I did this for about 6 to 8 months, okay, of just posting content, probably once a week, once every 2 weeks. I wasn't doing it very consistent, I guess, over as much as I am now. I'd say consistent more than a lot of people are today, because it was at least like probably 3 to 4 videos a month. But it could have been 2 a week at times. It was just a little bit all over the place. But all I was doing was, when I had something to share, I'd fire up the camera and I would share it. Then I was also doing, like, you could see my my screen as I was doing like Photoshop editing and things like that. So I did that without even knowing if I was gonna ever sell anything, because I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I just wanted to build an audience, and I thought maybe I could teach people photography some way, somehow. Who knows, maybe I would fly to their city or whatever, and we would go ahead and do something. I had no idea. So as I started building this, I also started to hear of this guy his name was Jeff Walker, the product launch formula guy. This is when he was just starting to really roll this thing out. Well, I bought his course. It was a $2,000 course at the time. By the way, I threw it on a credit card, didn't have the money. And I went through it, and it was all about basically what we're doing here. Showing up, building connection, helping people, getting people to know, like, and trust you, and then start rolling out something that you're gonna sell them, some type of course, some type of educational training. And so I did that. And so for 6 to 8 months, all I did was show up and I shared. I shared and I shared. Very similar to what I'm doing on this channel, by the way. Similar to what I did on another channel, which I'm still running, called Brand Creators, which has done several, 7-figure years we've had on that channel. So all from showing up and doing this. Just sharing, helping, okay? So back to the story of how I arrived at $12,500. So I ended up taking this guy's course, Jeff Walker, and also I should say, in my head, I was like, you know what, if this thing doesn't work, I'm just gonna ask for a refund. I'm just gonna ask for a refund if it doesn't work. And so I had that, he had a refund policy. Not that he was guaranteeing that it was gonna work, but he was like, hey, if you get into this thing and if you see it's not for you, just let us know and we'll give you a refund. I was like, all right, cool, I got that, just in case. So I ended up following it pretty much to a T, and it wasn't that hard. It was just showing up like this and then starting to let people know you got something coming. And so I let people know that I'm thinking about teaching a little photography course. And I said I was gonna launch it on a certain day, because that's what they say to do. So build it up for like a week or 2, and then from there, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna open the doors. So I came up with this little course that I was teaching people how I was able to start the business, but then also how I was using digital backgrounds and digital sets, cutting out a subject in Photoshop and then putting it into a really cool studio set. And so that's what I was teaching. And then I had these templates that I built in Photoshop that they would also get access to. And so I went ahead and I built this thing. I spent so much time to building this and putting all the templates together. I printed them out I actually burned them on CDs, and I put them in this package that had like 10 CDs in it. And so that's what I was gonna sell. And so I told everybody what was gonna happen. Now the funny part of this story here is my son, Scotty at the time, and my daughter, Alexis, she's 29 now, he's 26, they had bowling at the end of the school day. And I was the guy that was in charge of the kids for bowling day. And I didn't realize that was the day I was opening the cart to buy something. So I told my wife at the time, I was like, hey, listen, I said wife at the time. I'm still married to her, by the way, 30 years. That sounded like we weren't together anymore. No, we're still together. But I told her, I said, hey, listen, I'm not going to be home. I need you to go in here and I need you to change these file names because I'm giving them the link, but the link isn't going to work until we change the file name. It was kind of like duct taped together on the way that you can do it nowadays. And so she's like, okay. So she went ahead and did that, and it was supposed to open at 3 o'clock. So at 3:05, I get a call on my little T-Mobile track phone, I think it was at the time. And she's like, hey, this is crazy. I don't know what's going on, but there's like $3,000 in our account, in our PayPal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And she's like, yeah. She's like, hold on a minute. Let me refresh it. So she refreshed it. Now it was $5,000. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insane. I literally felt like I won the lottery. Let me back up and tell you that we used to run our photography studio. We were busy for 3 months out of the year in order to make $12,000. And that would carry us for like 3 months after the Q4 because that's when was our busiest time. And so this money's flowing in. I didn't have to meet with clients. We didn't have to edit their pictures. We didn't have to meet with them to deliver the packages. We didn't have to deal with people that got their images picked wrong or whatever, like just problems, right? Normal everyday stuff. I didn't have to deal with any of that. I'm like, this is insane. And so right from there on, I said, we have to be able to make this our full-time gig. But then, we finished that. We made $12,500 in 3 days. And from there, that little self-doubt creeps in and says, yeah, but you just got lucky. That ain't gonna happen again. And so I was like, now I started doubting myself. And I'm like, all right, let's try this again. So at that time though, I was still delivering content, still building the YouTube. Maybe at that time we might have had 2,000 subscribers. Maybe our email list was at 1,000, 1,200, whatever. And so about maybe 3-4 months later, I launched it again. Same exact thing. Launched it again, did like $22,000. Holy crap, it wasn't a fluke. This thing worked. And so from there on, we launched that product and other products. And we also built a membership that was doing 6 figures a year from that little YouTube channel. So when I tell you that you don't need this big, massive channel in order to make a decent living, or even just part-time money if you want, you totally can do it, even if you are not using YouTube ads. Like to me, we didn't even use YouTube ads back then. In the beginning, it wasn't even available. But then when it was available, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to deter people away from, clicking on my stuff. I wanted them to go to my little link where they could go on over and join my email list. All right, that's what I wanted. All right, but like I said, it has changed so much. It's actually become easier in my eyes because we're not just going after search traffic. We're going after people that are looking for things that are related to what we are offering. And it all comes down to coming up with who you want and then, who you want to attract. And then from there, how do you get their attention? And it really does now come down to figuring that out. And once you do, now it's all about coming up with those good titles and those good topics. All right. I actually put together a swipe file I've got 10 titles that I use interchangeably. If you want that, just put hooks in the comments and I'll send that to you. But that there, for me, like right now, if I'm starting over again, I'm starting there. I'm figuring out the who, and then I'm going to figure out how I'm going to attract them, and I'm going to figure out what I'm going to attract them with. All right? Now, I also shot a full video going over those 10 titles and a few other extra bonus tips. If you want to watch that video, go ahead and click right there. I'll walk you through those 10, give you some bonus tips on how to get the attention in your audience. Watch that video next, and I'll see you there.